Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Canadians with Disabilities and their Allies. My name is Brent Frain. I'm the host for the show, also known as PWD Allies podcast. You can check out your favorite podcast on your favorite app where you find it most suitable to check out. Definitely subscribe to the channel here. And if you're not watching live in the podcast, check out Neil Matheson on YouTube, and you'll find your favorite podcast where it's available to you.
If you're not watching live, what are you doing with your lives?
You're listening to the podcast. Yeah, check out our latest shows that are basically airing based on a weekly basis. There might be the odd time where maybe there's a week skipped, something comes up in life and things happen. But yeah, definitely check it out. Today, though, I have our ongoing roundtable. I call it a roundtable roundhouse, but that's number 7 today, Neil. Wow, it's the round. Yeah. Yeah. This is where we have different ideas and we throw it on the table, and it's the roundhouse discussion of is it income inequality? Is it
And
about
and then we say things like, "I'll throw you on the table."
No, you're first. No, it's a pink unicorn for you.
There you go. You can't handle the truth.
No, the truth is out there. It's out there. It just grasp it. And with that being said, today I have 2 of our participants on, and probably the rest will be joining us as they come on. First of all, I have Dan from Toronto, and I have Alan from Ontario. I know Alan had moved. I think it's whereabouts are you, Alan?
Kingston, Ontario. I'm about 90 minutes from Ottawa.
Okay, so you're just you're not too far, an hour and a half away. Yeah, from the Parliament Hill. Yes. And so today we're going to continue our discussions where we left off. As usual, there's always lots of discussions on housing affordability, income inequality, you name it, accessibility, transit, tiny homes. We'll dive in a little bit about tiny homes. Maybe we'll throw in some photography too. Sure, why not? We'll throw a little bit of that in there. But because it's all intertwined with advocacy about people with disabilities. Getting that picture right, and but photography is so important because it captures the essence of that person in that moment of time. What were they doing? What were they going through in their life? And that picture is so important because it really represents who that person is and who's behind that person. I remember, Neil, when I used to do the Twitter space, like they say, well, who is Weatherman? Like who is Brent? And here I am. Like who's behind that picture? So having photography or doing this live, it gives people that personal touch of being able to interact on YouTube with that person. And today, like people watching live today, send in your comments if you'd like to be our next guest. On a segment as a one-on-one guest, definitely reach out. I'd love to have you on. PWD advocacy is so important, and having different people's viewpoints on how they want to get to having a livable income. Now, I know there's so much discussion going on lately with the Canada Disability Benefit, the C-22. My God, it's like dragging the horse to the trough and trying to make the horse to drink it. And now we're trying to get the DERB out there, and federal minister basically turned down 2 petitions. There's a new petition that's out, she's circulating out, and I'm hoping that Joseph will be able to, when he comes on, he'll be able to dive into that one. There's a new petition that was signed by.
We're actually trying to get that person on the show.
Yes.
And I was going to actually reach out today, and I have just kind of run out of time. But I'll reach out to Mike Morrice in the next year or so, see if he can come on with Jeffrey, and we'll make a go of it. We'll at least try to. And tomorrow we have a great show too. especially for people that live in BC, like you and me, Brent. Well, we're going to have
Right.
the BC Greens on your podcast it's the first time
Wow.
since you switched formats.
Wow, that's going to be
Yeah.
exciting. Having that personal interaction with some local MLAs
Yeah.
in BC here. That's going to be awesome.
And I know we on your last show we were talking that about how Twitter used to be good. That there was that kind of immediate connection to people, and that was the good part of Twitter, right? But now, like with you being on YouTube, like the one nice thing about YouTube is, I mean, you've never shied away from anything or hid your face or hid your identity. Like, you're out there, and same with me.
Yeah.
I put myself out there. But the problem with Twitter nowadays is it's so easy to just hide your face, but still attack. Like, I'm gonna just attack and do it anonymously. Because I'm too much of a coward to show my face. So I'll just kind of hide behind my keyboard as a keyboard warrior.
Yeah.
And we're not doing that, and you've never done that.
No.
But especially with the YouTube format, you can't do it. I mean, at least when we're live and on air, like there's nowhere to hide, right? You can't
hide. Yeah.
So we just say what we want to say, shoot from the hip, and there's no hiding behind keyboards. There's no like anonymous like handles, kind of thing, and misrepresenting who you are. Like, I am who I am, and you are who you are.
Well, exactly, and that's the thing. I don't read from scripts. I just say it right from the heart of what I want to say, and I always say the keyword "wing it," and that's what we do on the show. I just it's not just for me. It's about the guests that I have on. I just say, be comfortable, just be you, and I don't judge. I listen very carefully, and different key points that will come up, and some people may say, well, what are we going to be talking about? Well, yeah, it gives us an idea, and then we can just dive into it, and then we just kind of blend the conversation accordingly. And if there's other things that come up within the topic, or something that in interest that the guest would love to talk about too, and if there's time, we throw it in there. I think it's just making it natural. It's a natural feel, because there's so much conflict around the world right now, and having a place that people can come to advocate, to talk about what's going on in their life, or maybe what's going on in like around them, of a loved one that they know that has a disability, or they know somebody that the system is impacting their lives because of systemic decisions that are engraved in legislation from our government. And I want to make it very clear to everyone listening on the podcast and also on the live stream. This, like, the podcasts here are not about inflaming governments. You know what I mean? Like, it's like attacking them personally. It's all about their policies. So it doesn't matter who's in government. It comes down to policy decisions that governments make, as either provincial or federally, on how it impacts people's lives. A person can be born with a disability. They can develop disabilities, like I've said many times, through Twitter Spaces when I used to have it on, or even on the YouTube podcast now. A person can develop multiple disabilities, hidden disabilities. There's so many different types of disabilities that people will have. Maybe they're not always diagnosed. They're hidden disabilities that doctors can't always diagnose for whatever reason. Or maybe they don't qualify for a supplement because they don't have a designation of a certain condition that they still need that supplement, like a vitamin supplement. I mean, I have to get vitamin supplements myself, but I don't have that diagnosis to get that condition to get it. And I don't think, to me, I don't think it's right that a person should have to jump through all those hoops through the government, if it's provincial, saying, well, you can apply for all these different supplements. Well, the doctors, if you don't
I'd like to have an income supplement.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why we need a livable income, and I believe that the long-term solution is a livable basic income. That's what Canadians are going to need going forward, because these programs, I'll get to start with Dan, and then we'll go to Ellen, and then any of our guests that on our roundtable come on, we can dive into this. But again, these programs were designed decades and decades ago. They are so old, and they just need to be completely dismantled and rebuilt. Because keep tweaking them, and little breadcrumbs here. Oh, here's $50 here. Meanwhile, you get a rent increase. Well, if your market rents are high, or even if you're not, if you're in like RGI, it's still the cost of living. It just gobbles it right up, so you don't even notice it. Yeah. And so I think a livable income is what people need. So Dan, I'm going to pass it over to you. What do you feel that these programs, like I know you're in Ontario, so you got the ODSP, they call it there, and OW, and provincial programs across the country. And in your view, I mean, I don't want to put you on the hot potato here, but I mean, do you feel that these rates are just so inadequate, they're not keeping up with the standard of living?
You hear me clearly?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so sorry about my connection there, man. Something's going on with my phone here, but the housing in particular, it's, for example, today here in Ontario, I heard, I was telling you guys earlier, I heard that Global News had put up that there's 27,000 people on the wait list for Toronto housing. And that's total BS, because like I worked there, and back in 2019, I believe it was.
Oh man, I think we're going to have problems with Dan today, which is too bad.
The audio, yeah. Well, when
we
Dan,
lost MJ there too.
Yeah, well, I don't know what's going on today. It's not me.
No.
It's the pink unicorn.
It's the pink unicorn's fault. But when Dan is able to connect, I'll get him to continue on that. But I think what he's mentioning here is the stats. Those sounds like those numbers that he mentioned are way outdated. And kind of I'm glad that you mentioned that, Dan. If you're listening and you're not able to connect, but just keep trying. I'll come back to you. You just jump in when you're ready. Because the recent stats, actually, just the housing stats, apparently CMHC has now mentioned that we need major amount of housing built now. They, I guess, underestimated the amount of housing that Canada needs. And that goes with all sectors of income category. And they basically want to really focus on low to very low income amount of housing to be built. Now, that's great. I was listening to a podcast live on TV just the other day, and see if I can get a little clip. I'll play it actually on here. I'll dig it up in a few minutes. But basically, they're saying that the amount of housing that needs to be built, it's so outdated. Everything's delayed decades. For what reason? I don't know. I don't really have a solution to what kind of housing needs to be built. I mean, how much? But obviously, there needs to be affordability needs to be built into that. Sure, we can build all the housing we need, but is it going to be government-controlled housing? Is it going to be corporate housing? I think that if the government makes deals with the corporations, that obviously they're like a monopoly in Canada right now, and sky's the limit right now. The rent, as soon as a tenant moves out, they can jack up your rent as high as they want. I know some people say, well, vacancy control, or there's a couple sides to that. But the problem is, there needs to be a standard. There has to be some kind of standard put in place, or if landlords take advantage of it too much, then there needs to be some kind of measures put in place. I don't know what it is. We'll get ideas from people that are on our roundtable today. Definitely. I think all different types of builds, if it's through corporations that they have their contractors building the housing, or is it government who have their contractors building for nonprofit Sure, build it all, but make it truly affordable for the person's income. So, if they say government A says, okay, our contractors are going to build the housing. Sure, okay. Now, how much is the rent? Oh, it's $1,000 a month. Well, $1,000 a month, that takes up 80% of the person's PWD check, or 85%. What do they got to live on? So I mean, that's why a livable income needs to be high enough so it can buffer that amount. I mean, if politicians can give themselves $2,500 to rent in a month on average across the country, I'm sure certain provinces are the prices a little bit different, but on average it's $2,500 a month. Imagine giving that to PWD also on top of their actual income. And now they can maybe find a safe place they can call home.
And in my case, I mean, maybe there's some people that are going to be listening and saying, well, sorry, Neil, I don't feel sorry for you. But my situation is a bit different in that I do have a house. Like I have a mortgage, or, I basically have a credit line that's supporting the mortgage now. And, I bought it with my first wife when we had money. and I never bought the house as an investment. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to make a crap load of money on this. I bought it as
Are you Airbnb in there,
No.
Neil?
I bought it as a home. I bought it as a
I
home
know.
and a home only, right? And it pisses me off now that houses have become this commodity now, where it's not just a place to live. And like I've said before, like my property tax just over last year and the last like 4 or 5 years, it's doubled since last year. It doubled, and it's like,
Oh my God.
and it's like that
My
doesn't
mom-
that doesn't make sense. Like why? Like I bought this place. It was we bought it for $129 back in 2005, and it's been appraised for over $600,000 now.
Whoa.
And so that's like what's that, like 18 years ago it was 129, and fast forward 18 years and it's now worth over, according to the the appraisal, it's worth over $600,000. And so like I said, some people are going to scoff and go, well, Neil, you're sitting on $600,000. Why are you complaining? It's because like I said, I'm not buying it for an investment. I'm buying it as a house. It's my home. If I were to sell this place, I mean, where am I going to move to? I'm gonna sell it and then be forced to like pay somebody $2,000 or $3,000 a month to rent. No thanks.
Well, yeah, because the average rent price right now, I mean, for a one bedroom in Metro Vancouver is like $2,000, and in Vancouver it's $3,000, but in Metro Vancouver it's $2,000. I know in Victoria it's $2,000 minimum, and that's in a really older building outside of the realm where the company that I rent from, it's getting up there. Building I live in is just under two. It says under two, but the average price is $2,500 in Victoria.
It's going to be like $2,500 or $3,000 is going to be the norm pretty soon. And
it's $4,000.
And if it's going to be $3,000, that's in 1 year you've flushed $36,000 in rent. Then.
Right, you times it by 10 years,
and then so if you're saying, like, for me, if I have my so-called $600,000 place now, right. I mean, I've got all this debt now too. I got to pay off the debt first, but pretend that I had $600,000 once I sold this place. Right. Like, that's not gonna last me maybe 10 years, and then I'm gonna be back to zero again.
Right, exactly. There's a little clip I'm gonna play here on the podcast. It's about the housing crisis. It was from a realtor who is in British Columbia, and it was actually just on the local podcast from Mo Amir. Anyone listening on the
Okay.
podcast? Yeah, Mo Amir. He's awesome, and so he had a local realtor on there, Steve Saretsky. So I'm gonna play a little clip here, and yeah, just everybody hears. Yeah, there we go. As long as my audio works here. Hang on. Hey, what's going on here? Hang on. It's okay. Why is my audio not working?
Oh man, it's the show of technical problems today.
Oh yeah, there you are. Hang on. Was working a minute ago. I'll get you to just to continue on there just for a minute, Neil, and then I'll cut in there. Just give me a moment.
We have MJ on, but I'm not sure if he's got audio right now. And actually, Alan's also popped off now too, so I don't know what's going on.
Is it?
We have all these unicorns running around today.
I did that because I was running my tea.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
There you go. I thought
I didn't want my microwave back.
I was thinking it was technical issues again.
Oh, great. Oh, I think
57.
Here it is.
Pull in one.
Okay, here it is. Okay. I'm gonna play it right now for you. Here we go.
What are some of the larger problems? I think that Canada's population growth is growing at the fastest rate since 1957. When you pull in 1.1 million people here over a 12-month period, you're exacerbating a housing crisis. So I think the immigration side, we've seen the federal government come out in recent weeks and saying, okay, now we're going to start to look at tweaking this. Obviously, we've been fundamentally, I think, underbuilding over the last 10, 15 years. And so I think those are some of the larger issues. And Airbnb, we're seeing obviously cities across North America now grappling with this issue. I do think there needs to be some regulation. And it's hard to draw a line of where do you draw the line on Airbnb? Do you just outright ban it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? I mean, if you ban Airbnb completely, now there's, I mean, obviously, as we know, there's not enough housing across the country to match the amount of immigration. And yeah, like I'm all for immigration coming into Canada. Oh, for sure, right? I mean, there's so many issues why things are happening. Canada's always been a place for immigrants to come to. And even when I was a kid, I remember in school, there was I had just a small little handful of children from other countries that were there. Really great people. But Canada's just not equipped to handle the amount of housing. Why? Because the feds and all different levels of government didn't cooperate with each other to get all the housing built. Right? Feds deregulated the housing. What could go wrong? You don't build. You don't get make it happen. And stock does need to be replenished over time. More people keep coming in the country. You've got to make sure that you're going to accommodate everyone coming into the country, even the current the citizens, right? The people do have to move for whatever reason in their life. Maybe they need to move to a community that they grew up in. Maybe they want to live in the community that they grew up in, like myself. But no, a corporation price is going up, so I had to move. So I'll get into that part another time. But the fact is that having immigration in Canada it's important. We need it for so many reasons. We have an aging population of doctors, nurses, different practitioners, you name it. They're all retiring. We need skilled, immigrants that are coming in here from other countries to fill the void, for sure. I mean, I'm all for it. But we also need the housing to make sure that they have a place to stay that they can call home too. So we need to have a balance here.
Well, they can all live in tents.
But part of the problem here is we're not just bringing in skilled immigrants. We're bringing in refugees, and that a lot of these people don't have skills, right? So the problem I see here is when we're talking about skilled people. I mean, we need skilled people. That is true. But when we bring in unskilled people, we're finding that these are for jobs that are going away through automation. So unskilled people are kind of a redundant resource in 20 years. we have to look forward to for the type of people that we're bringing in, and our government's just throwing everything at it to fill an emptiness, and they're not coming at this with a strategic plan.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? They're just kind of just saying, well, yeah, we need them in, but they're not really figuring it out. So they thought, well, we'll figure it out later. And of course, then it puts strain on our short-term rental. And then we've got Airbnb going on. Puts strain on our tourism for sure, because there's not enough hotels. Why? Because the government keeps selling them off for the homeless. Well, if you just give people enough money and give the people that are precariously housed, then they're going to be able to do so many things in a positive way with their lives, hopefully, right? And the ones that that they can't be housed, I don't have the answer to that, because there's so many different pieces of the puzzle, shall we say, that it goes into society to help the certain individuals.
We've got a comment from chat here, and it's from Branwyn, and she says,
"Hi, Branwyn."
She says Airbnb would be fine if there was a large surplus of housing for people to live in. So yes. I agree. I mean, Airbnb wouldn't be an issue if there was enough of a surplus of housing to pick up the slack, right?
Yeah.
Well, to me, I think Airbnb. I think the buildings should be built purposely. If you're going to be building for a commercial venture like Airbnb, then that should be what should be building for, and that should be your designated area of town or whatever where it's going to be Airbnb. But the rest of it is being built for housing, and Airbnb won't be allowed there, right? I mean, I would absolutely have no problem with that if there was designated areas for it, right? But going and taking up the ample supply that currently is required is where the big problem really is.
That would be interesting, actually, if they could zone for Airbnb.
Yeah.
I mean, create a new zoning for Airbnb.
Yeah. I think the government can do anything they want. They could create a brand new set of zoning parameters for Airbnb to only exist in this area or this neighborhood, and anything outside of there is now banned, right? So it would change the parameters of the game while allowing for the business to coexist. And I like to go and try not to destroy business ventures that people are building, So, I mean, in any way we have for people trying to go and have a job so they're not being reliant on the system, I have to go and say the government needs to go and have a very close check and balance, right? And, and this is where I come back to the idea of let's take a look at modularization of building apartment buildings, or however we change building. Instead of going and building each apartment inside in the floor, it just slides in. You pick it up with a crane and slide it in, and there you go. I mean, the apartment's there and it just connects and is hooked up, and bada bing, bada boom. I mean, there has to be a revolutionary way of solving these problems. And
they could. They could. There are containers that are sitting empty that could be snapped up, built on site, and literally put in place within a month.
I mean, I'm talking like you could not using containers like for shipping, like you'd build a modularized building that you just put, kind of like an ATCO building, but specifically designed to be a home. You just slide it into the spot. You got your windows on the outside, and it'd be self-contained for the most part, self-heating. You build it with the next level technology that we currently have mentioned in the past, the Power over Ethernet, which lowers your power requirements. Use the proper new 2030 building codes where we got 12 inches of insulation. If we lower the amount of things that need 240 volts of power, we'll then lower the amount of worry from fire and things blowing up. So if we change how we build and design, we could solve these problems very quickly. But the problem is we don't have a government that's willing to say we need to make exemptions to the rules or have an emergency set of rules for this situation. Right? And we are in a housing crisis, and technically the government could employ the Emergency Act. right? Technically, the provinces could employ their Emergency Act and say, look, we need to get things done. They have the power to solve the problem. They just don't want to do it.
Every province, at a minimum, every province, I think, needs like 100,000 units. Like,
oh yeah,
that's like baseline. I'm talking like bare minimum baseline. Every province in the country right now needs about 100,000 units, and that's just only addressing the need right now. That's not addressing the need, like, you know, two or 3 years from now.
I saw, I don't know if it was on Twitter or if it was on TikTok or where it was, but I watched them do a 3D printed building in 3 days. Like, it was unbelievable. It was a time lapse, but they would show day 1, day 2, and it was just incredible watching.
It's not one of those cement poured ones, is it, Alan?
Yeah, it's with a computer shoot that just literally is going from AutoCAD. It's literally, but I mean, it was more than one house. It was like a building, and it was just incredible to watch it go up. If I find it, I'll post it.
Well, my town, where I'm at, we looked at 3D printed buildings, and then the cost benefit analysis showed that the costs were absolutely prohibitive because it's such a new technology at this point in time that it hasn't matured enough to become a viable solution that can be done on a mass scale, right? And this is where new technologies, well, they sound good and great. You have to look at the cost benefit analysis to go and do this to solve the problem. So this is where, to me, if we modularized these buildings and made apartment buildings that were very modularized, right, and they were built exactly the same, didn't matter where they were, unless they were specially built for handicap, and or short people, or because we might have to go and make those accommodations. Well, we will have to. I hate to say it, we will. Building these things, so handicap places are going to have to be built, and we'll have to make the accommodations for them too. And when we build these places, the bottom line comes down to the fact that once you have a conveyor belt system built in place, right, you would be able to go and build these buildings at such a high speed that you could go and have these things coming out and being built at 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, or 200 a day if conveyor belts and design systems were put in place. So you started from point A to point Z and you got it done, right? And
yeah, it's like right now, like they're saying in Canada, like Canada says we'll need to build an additional 2.45 million homes over and above the base level of 2.2 million homes by 2030. It says 9.6 million. Yeah, which is crazy, eh? Like that's just, they're so far behind in getting these homes built.
Right, and this is right. Yeah, and this is where modularization for apartment buildings. I mean, even if they're 10-story or 20-story or 50-story, at this point, I don't care how we solve this problem, right? We just have to solve the problem, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm looking at this from a we are at a national security crisis. This is where it really is. It's become a national security interest to deal with this housing crisis. Because if we look at this from the true, having unhoused people, having, death in the streets and all the rest of this stuff is a serious health crisis. So there's multiple levels to this crisis for housing. So we, if we said, okay, we're going to clear this land, we're going to build these conveyor belts, we're going to build these apartment buildings, they're going to be 20 by 30, we'll say, 600 square feet for a single person, or we'll have larger ones, 1,000 square feet for 2 people, etc. 1,200 for 3 people. There you go. And
I don't slid into 300.
They slid into these buildings or into these pods, and all of a sudden we could build these places and get it done.
Yeah.
I think if we stop making excuses and saying it's this person's jurisdiction or their person's jurisdiction, and say, no, you need to come here, you need to sit down, this is a crisis, we're going to get it done. We need
to work together.
We need a 14 jurisdiction task force to get this dealt with at every
rather
province.
than pointing, rather than pointing
Right?
fingers, saying it's your jurisdiction, no, it's yours, and that's why nothing gets done.
Exactly.
I would get on a plane, but then I'd be worried that Air Canada would lose my wheelchair or damage it.
Right. Yes. That's another hot topic.
There was a comedian that faced the same thing. There was this, apparently Air Canada didn't accommodate for 2 different people in wheelchairs, both from Canada, both disabled. It's they can do better than that. I think the tiny home movement too can be implemented into the housing.
Right. Well, 20 by 30 is about 600 square feet. So that's kind of about the size. Right. That's twice the size. That's twice the size of a tiny home. Right. Yeah. And I mean, what I'm looking at this from the point of view is that, Neil's taking a phone call. Hopefully he's muted himself. So the point is solving these problems and having a 14th jurisdiction task force and saying, look, we need to create 14, or we'll say 13, or I don't know, we could even just say 10 factories across the nation that builds these particular types of buildings. And we start going and taking these buildings, and we take these, when we start building 5-story buildings in smaller towns or 10-story in larger places and so on and so forth, just start building these. We would have jobs, we would have solutions, and we'd have people housed. And if we started doing this, we could have people housed, very quickly. Right, very quickly.
And then there's the affordability part too, and make sure that that they're going to be matching, what people can afford. Especially, and that's why having the income as we discussed. I mean, a livable income. Yeah.
Well, and that's just where my idea of UABI would solve that problem.
Yeah.
Is you'd be able to go and rent to own, where you'd own the thing. And there you go. So the only thing you'd be paying is water, sewer, and your hydro. Because
I'd like to see people who are on a fixed income PWD ODSP, where their income is actually considered a salary or an income, with the wording on how it is, so that when you walk through, I timed it out. If I spent a year here, I would have spent $15,000 roughly on rent. Right. Now you times that by 5, that's almost 75 grand. I would like to be able to say, I want a 5-year mortgage so I can get my tiny home, and I want my ODSP to be seen as an income, because at least I've got some options. Because right now I'm at the whim of, if whoever buys my building, if they say we're renovating everyone because it's not up to building code, and we're going to have to tear the building down because it's not viable to keep repairing it. Like we've been down to 1 elevator for the last 3 weeks, and they're telling us another month. So we got 2 elevators and one's out. And they got it fixed for a day or so, but you couldn't go to the main floor in it. You had to go down to the 3rd floor and then walk down. Well, how's that going to help someone in a wheelchair?
Exactly.
Right. So my worry is that they're going to look at my building and say, okay, so you painted it. So what? It's still not up to. It's still, the heating is not up. The electricity is not up. The whole frame, what do they call it? The wiring system is not up to.
Upgraded,
so it's cheaper for us to tear it down, but we'll build a new building, and then you're welcome to move back in at a different price point.
Well, I mean, especially with the wiring, Alan. It's like it's plugging in a big amplifier or something. I guess it can't handle that voltage.
Well, I had to.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I had a lamp that I've got 2 plugs in my kitchen, right? One is right by the sink,
Okay.
I don't know who came up with that idea. I'm no plumber, but that like right literally over the sink.
Oh.
And the other plug is the other plug that's used for the fridge is on the other side of the thing. So if I have one of those 6 plug prong things, I've got to unplug stuff while I'm using the microwave. Like, so my worry is that whoever buys this building is going to say, you know, it's just cheaper for us to knock it down and build a new building in its place. So now you got 14 floors of people with 25 units per floor suddenly out of a place to live.
This is why. You know, this is why when it comes to the solutions to solving problems, with what I'm suggesting is, if this housing crisis is declared a national emergency, we create a 14-panel task force. We get buildings being built. We go and get pods built for the people. I mean, it'll be a small apartment. 600 square feet isn't much. But if it's just you, I mean, it's one person, that's fine and dandy. For 2 people, you need more. 3 people, you need more. You know, this is where, you can go and modularize this stuff and just have it so there's just one design. It doesn't, that's where simplification would solve problems. Stop goofing off with 50 layouts, right? You get rid of the 50 layouts, you go with one layout. Now you can go and build, these buildings. Sure, in 25 years, these places might be turned into useless pieces of crap and will have to be recycled. Fine. That time, hopefully there'll be another solution that we can come up with, or that'll be there, because technology is going to advance. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if AI takes off, AI is going to start being the things that are going to build these things. And I look at it from the point of view is, with power over Ethernet, people don't realize that most of the technology in their house is all using basically, it's all using DC power. It's just being converted from AC to DC. And the big catch point with all of this is being able to go and ensure that when we build these places, we don't have to go and spend an arm and a leg on the latest, on technology. Most of the technology that I'm suggesting is already there. I just found out the other day that you can go and have a heat pump system operating on 48 volts instead of 240.
Wow.
So the technology to change things around, that's DC power, by the way. So the technology for all of this that I talk about would fall into the new environmental standards that they're talking about, and it would also lower the amount of power and energy that is needed to be used, right? And if we really want, we can put a treadmill in there for the SM to go and charge the battery on their little apartment. I mean,
True. The way people are using appliances today has changed so dramatically. I mean, like, if I didn't have an oven, I wouldn't be lost. If I had one of those glass induction tops and then a toaster oven, an air fryer, and a microwave, that's it. That's all you really need in a super efficient fridge.
I've got an oven that I haven't used in probably 8 years.
I don't use my oven either.
Like the big one. I just have a small convection one that I use.
Oh yeah.
That's it. But I have a full-size one that I never, Yeah.
I want to I've been looking for a chopping block that will go completely, I can get the little feet for it, and it can go over my stove top, because I don't have a lot of prep storage, and then get one of those glass induction tops that I could just plug into the existing stove, and when I need to cook something, I just pull it out and put it on, because otherwise I use my air fryer or I use my Instapot.
I was just gonna say, Alan, how is your air fryer going? I mean,
I did fish and chips the other day. The only thing I forgot was to buy a lemon.
Tartar
I was like, dang it! I remembered. I was in the grocery store going, did I get tartar sauce? I'm pretty sure I did. And the one thing I knew I didn't have and I didn't grab it was a lemon.
I hate when I go to the store and I'm going to the store for one thing. Like I have to get milk or something, and then I end up going, and then I end up getting a whole bunch of other things, and I'll come back. It's like, oh crap, I forgot the milk. The only one thing I really need. Well, I mean, that's just one example, right? But that happens to me so much.
Oh, it's happened.
We have a comment from Branwen again, and she says that she thinks in terms of income. She says a federal UBI with a disability top-up amount makes the most sense. The welfare system is so oppressive and stigmatized. I also often feel on edge because they can pull your benefits at any time and decide you're magically not disabled anymore.
Magic, yeah,
like the pink unicorn, yeah.
And Brendan, like a little bit of history regarding the BC disability. I mean, Neil could probably jump in here on this topic, but this goes back to governments that, based on policies, there used to be a pension. BC disability used to be a pension at one time. I'll pass it over to Neil on that one.
Well, I mean, the idea that it used to be a pension that's acknowledging, and rightly so, that's acknowledging that, you know what, people living with disabilities, that's a serious thing. That's something that we should acknowledge as a barrier, and we're going to give it the respect it deserves and acknowledge it with the respect it deserves by giving it the protected income of a pension. And I mean, that's why I always talk about this whole clawback issue of pensions now. I mean, when you claw back a pension, you're clawing back my survivor's pension, or clawing back somebody else's old age pension, or whatever it is. You're not respecting what a pension is. And the whole idea of why it used to be a pension is because the governments used to respect that disability was a significant, lifelong, barrier thing. And it's like, how do you best respect it? Well, you best respect it by giving it the respect of, here's a protected income pension. And now they just pervert it and say, well, even pensions now, we're just going to pervert them all and turn them all into pink unicorns, and it doesn't matter anymore,
But this is where I was getting at with the whole idea that someone's disability benefit, whether it's ODSP, PWD, whatever it may be, is considered an actual taxable income, where a group of people who are on a disability could go to a bank and say, I have this much, I have this much, I have this much. And there's a house just outside town, and we'd like to buy it because it's got 6 rooms. That means 6 of us are not, we can afford it, and and then share the kitchen and whatever. Or one person can say, I'm going to be on this PWD or this disability thing for the next 20 years of my life. I know I can pay a mortgage off on that tiny home or whatever. Give me that option, because I can't. And even if I'm working part-time, the banks would even look at me, even if I had a 900 point credit rating, which I certainly don't.
Right. And it shouldn't really be based on basically people have to jump through all these hoops, right, in order to basically get what they need. I mean, just give them what they need. Give them a basic
it's policy. It's policy with like, if the minister said, oh well, we're not going to raise your income amount more than $100 a year, but we are going to give you the ability by changing policy so that the amount you are getting can actually be used as a mortgage towards something, a condo or an apartment building or a tiny home or whatever it is.
Right.
And give that person with that fixed income some maneuverability, because they're at risk of ending up on the street, which we all know is going to end up costing the government 3 times what they're actually giving the person to begin with.
Well, you always say, Brent, and I mean it doesn't get actually said enough, but you say it quite a bit, but even so, it doesn't get said enough. And you make the comment that the way everything is now with the disability support systems or the social assistance, it's like the government pits, or the provincial governments are pitting disabled against disabled and saying, you as a disabled person, you get this, and you as a disabled person over here get this. In other words, you deserve, if we talk about rents and stuff, it's like, well, you deserve a subsidized rent, and you don't, and you deserve subsidized rent here, and you don't, and why is that?
So I'll dive into that part just so that people listening to the podcast today, and then maybe Brenwyn, you can maybe, if you'd like to comment on my comment here, or anyone else on the chat session, or or if you're listening live and you want to jump into the chat session. So here it goes on that. Thanks, Neil, for bringing that up, because I get really spoiled when it comes to that, because it doesn't have to be the way that the system is designed, and just people understand. The system is designed to work exactly the way that the government wants it to work. And that's why we're here to bring the awareness of the problem that the system is failing, and it is failing. It has been failing for decades. It's just getting worse, right, with the cost of living. So with that being said, it's like pitting disabled people saying, against disabled people. You can have RGI. Oh, but you want to live in the for-profit sector, market housing, your corporate landlord. Hey, you want to live it? That's your choice. Hey, you want to pay high market rent? No, I can't afford it. I want RGI. I want rent geared to income. Oh, you want government supported housing? No. I just want to be able to live. See, so it's pitting people against people, disabled, and they do that with seniors too, because I know my mom went through that, and I tell you, it was a headache and a half. What it is in society, we got it as society, we got to bring it to the government's attention, like this is what's happening, and that's why we do these podcasts, to bring the awareness to so people in general say, oh, I didn't know that. And here's another corker that I throw in here all the time. If you don't have a physical address in BC, and I think there's other provinces, I know Ontario does the same thing. Maybe I'll get Ellen to jump in there in a bit on this one. If you don't have a physical address, you do not get your shelter portion. Really? Well, maybe the rent is too high. Maybe you got booted out of your home because the building was sold, right? Maybe it's condemned. Maybe your building is it's not habitable. Maybe another company has bought it and they said, hey, you know what, we're going to completely do a rental eviction, so we don't want you here, you're going to be turfed out. So you found a place that, hey, maybe your buddy or someone that you know, maybe your grandma, maybe your parents, if you have parents that they're still alive. I don't. But imagine if I found a place and my building got sold. I don't know where I'd go. Hey, Neil, can I crash at your place? Hey. Yeah, but no, you can only be here for a week. So here's
I have one couch in the living room.
Yeah, but here's one example though. Like I'm just gonna use this as an example though, so that people understand this. So yeah, Neil goes, 1 week, Brent. You got 1 week. You can stay here. So that's called a no fixed address. That's not a permanent address. But then, my aunt says, hey, Brent, you can stay with me for a week. But Neil says you can stay here for a week. My cousin, you can stay.
Couch surfing.
Oh, couch surfing, yes. But according to the government, that's not a fixed address. Oh, but I'm gonna give them here's $100 for you, Neil. Here's $100 to my aunt. Well, you know what? Next thing you know, you're now paying more. You're now paying more out of your check because you don't get your shelter portion. So now it's coming. Your rent now is getting paid out of your base support portion. What do you got left? You got less than what you would actually have in their full check. And so it's difficult, yes.
And here's the kicker. If my mom said to me or my sister said, hey, we need you to come and stay for a week so we can get help. I don't know, let's say we're going to renovate the garage into a livable space, and we just need an extra set of hands.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm outside, if I leave my province or whatever for say 5 days, next month my amount goes down.
Yeah, and that's when I
it's
usually
so punitive. It's like the most
See,
important.
and this is why I've when I started looking at this, I was looking at it from my point of view, and my point of view has been that these people don't care. They believe that they're doing their job, and that's just the way it is. I mean, I've had these people tell me, I'm just doing my job. And I replied with, and so were the people that put the people in the gas chambers. So don't tell me you're just doing your job. And the lady was like, that's just cruel and mean. I said, exactly what you're doing to me. Because, when these people try to go and to state that, oh, this is just their job, I have to go and cry at the level of idiocy that you have inside you to realize that you are just that cold-hearted. Because no human being should be made to be that cold-hearted to another human being to justify abusing another human being to go and make them homeless or find a reason to go and cut their money because they didn't comply with this or that. Yeah. And this is why when I came up with UABI, I came from it from a point of being hurt, a point of anger, and then a point of resolution of understanding that if these people weren't there and we just stopped this and we got rid of all these goofy programs all over the place that waste our tax dollars, we would have a solution.
Well, kind of getting into about the programs. It's I remember a place that I was renting at, and I had to go to the government and say, well, this is my address I'm going to be living at, and they have a form you got to fill out, and then they have to now verify that you're going to be living at that address. Oh, God forbid, right? So I get a phone call saying, hi, you're going to be living here. Why are you paying this much market rent? You do realize you're going to put yourself into harm's way. You're going to be paying more, and then you're going to be asking us for a crisis supplement because you're not going to be able to make it by. I go, well, isn't that my choice, right? Isn't it about the recipient's choice where they want to live? Isn't that about autonomy? I said, and as time went on, I learned a little bit more about that word, right? About I said, this is where I want to live. I said, should I not be allowed to live where I want to live? Oh, absolutely. But our job is to make sure that you're not exhausting all your revenue from us into market rent. I go, that's my choice. Can you not find a cheaper place? I go, there is no cheaper place. Oh, there is. If you look, I go, oh, trust me, I've looked. Well, I saw a place for $800.
Well, then you go find it.
But here's the thing. Well, there's a place for $850. I go, you cannot find anywhere in BC or anywhere in Canada for $850. If you do,
you can't even afford a room.
Oh my God!
A room is before I moved out of Niagara, and I was on pretty good terms with my roommates. I was paying $1,000 for room and food and everything included in one. I was still paying $1,000.
Yeah,
and I started off at $725 with them, and as the cost of living went up for them, obviously my rent had to go up. But like to rent a room, like my son looked around, just so he wasn't living with his mom anymore, and $795 was the cheapest he could find for a basement room.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a place that I came across because the government had said, oh, it's I saw it on Craigslist. I said, did you? I said, I saw it. Yeah, they go, yeah. I said, I saw it too. And you know what place that is? It's a place that actually it's a tear down, and actually squatters are using it right now currently to live at. And they said, yeah, but isn't it that's still a place that you could go? You could call home. I go, really? There's no electricity in it. It's all shut down. It's all boarded up. There's boards all around it. But according to them, that's still a place you could go to. I go, I'm sorry, I will not subject myself to that. I would rather live on the street, I said, rather than go and live there. Jeez, like And speaking with that, like, it's sad because recently, I know I said on the podcast, there was some people that Sonjia and I got to know for the last year and a half, actually almost 2 years, actually 2 years now, actually, yeah, going on almost. They're actually moving to Winnipeg because they can't afford to live in British Columbia anymore. The cost of living is a little bit cheaper. Housing is definitely cheaper. Yes, they're going to get less on their check per month because, I mean, it matches well, I shouldn't say matches the cost of living, no, but it's a little bit cheaper, and for health reasons. But again, they shouldn't have to move, right? They should not have to move. That tells me it's a systemic issue that they got to now move out of province because they can't afford to live in BC. BC is the most expensive province in Canada to live in based on taxes and the cost of living. And I don't do that blame game of, well, BC versus this and that, but BC's apparently always been that way. But I like BC. That I call it this my home, and I shouldn't have to decide, oh, well, I'm gonna want to live in Victoria because the housing's cheaper. I still do not call this home. And Neil knows this because I've said this on the podcast, and I've done a Breaking with Brent segment. And I did one just recently too.
I want you to come home to Langley too, Brent and Sonjia.
Yeah. Sonja's actually got her headphones on right now. She's listening to our question period in the BC Legislature, and that's what she was laughing at. Oh, what? So she's probably laughing at them arguing with each other. A blame game, right?
Well, I'm going to say the Captain Obvious thing here is that there's that meme that goes around that says the system is broken, and then the next frame over says, well, actually the system is working exactly as intended.
It is.
So
it is,
and that's the really sad and unfortunate part of it all.
See, when Trudeau went and said that he admires the basic dictatorship of China, I understood what he was saying. But when I heard him say it, it really gave me pause because I don't think he's the right kind of person to truly understand how to truly be a benevolent individual.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? And that's, and in a dictatorship, you need a benevolent leader that would be there to go and solve problems. But that never, ever happens. Eventually, power goes to people's heads. And that's the most dangerous thing that currently happens when we allow these people to rule over us, to where they're making these life and death decisions about, oh, we're going to go and give you just a little bit of raise at the beginning of COVID, and then we're going to cut it in half, and then we're going to take it away, and then we're going to allow you to go and get a little bit of money from the federal government, and then we're going to go and give you a little bit of a raise, right?
It's called the records. Here you go. Here you can have. Oh, you can't have that. I'm gonna take it away.
And that's the part that really irritates me with this government is, and all these governments is, they're very inconsistent in giving a crap about the people that elected them. They only give a crap about themselves, and I really just get angered when it's like these people say, well, we're your elected representatives. Really? If you were, you would be representing us to the T, to what the people want, not what your party interests are, or not what your special interests are. And this is where the problems are, is with all these special interests matriculating around political parties, they have to play these games to where they only can go and fulfill just this much, just a little bit, but not everything, to go and solve the problems. And this is where, to me, politics has become part of the problem of solving the problems for the people.
But let's give some MLAs and MPs credit though, because, and I mean, I could call out quite a few people, but just off the top of my head, because I'm thinking DERB, I'm going to mention Mike Morrice. I know for him, as an example, he's one of those MPs that's out there that's always, if you listen to him speak, and when he comes on your show, even Brent, he's always saying he's always raising issues about voters in his area, and almost mentioning people by name, saying, Susan from so-and-so, from Susan from Kitchener has asked me to pose this question, or, Bill from what, like he really makes a point of saying, I'm representing the people in my riding, and maybe not enough of them do that, but I did want to at least give some MLAs and some MPs credit that some really do make an effort to pose the questions that are coming from the electorate. I can't even say it. I'm sorry. I'm tongue-tied.
Stop twisting your tongue. It's not working.
I'm also.
I get that way sometimes too.
I believe there's some good politicians out there, but what worries me is when a political party will throw someone like Sarah Jarma under the bus.
Right.
Then it doesn't matter who it is, but I almost feel like the NDP took her on. I mean, not because she didn't earn it, she did, but to almost like say, look what we do, we're inclusive, and then as soon as they don't agree with anything that person is standing up for, they'll throw them under the bus, and back to the status quo.
Yeah, well, exactly. This is why, to me, I dislike political parties all around, is because political parties create division. And, and this is where, to me, the federal and the provincial governments, should be ceding more authority to the local governments, because this is where the problems truly are, right? The real problems of housing and homelessness are dealt with at a local level. They're dealt with at the local level with the cities, with their zoning and all the rest of this stuff. So at the same time, we need to go and have the provinces basically say, hey, you guys need to go and solve the zoning problems for building these buildings, and we need to get them built, right? And we get the companies to start building these things, we build these buildings, and they can be put up, because basically it's going to be wire frame, for like you'd have the frame of the building basically put up, and then everything else would just be put up on the outside, and there you go. And it is just, I don't know, might look cheesy, it might look cheap, but you could probably make it look a little better. But the point is we're sitting here with a housing crisis, we're sitting here with a financial crisis for people because of governments with insane plans that are brought in by foreign entities to go and make our lives more expensive. Like the carbon tax in of itself in BC has raised the cost of living for everybody, especially the people that are poor, disabled, elderly, working a minimum wage job or working a full-time job that pays but has kids and is still living on the edge of freaking bankruptcy because of these insane ideas that our government puts in. This tax alone is a cumulative tax that people don't realize that affects the costs of housing, the costs of natural gas, the costs of gasoline, and most of all, not less, the cost of your sundry items and your living and your food at the grocery store. And those are the ones that get hit the hardest.
Remember when things weren't taxed at the grocery store, Brent?
I remember that, MG, I'm glad that you brought
those
that up.
Those were the good old days.
I remember getting to a debate with someone that I know years ago and say, oh, well, you don't drive. Yeah, I go, well, no, I can't drive. But if I did drive, it would definitely affect me. But they're like, well, no, you don't drive, so it doesn't affect you. The gas pump. I go, no, it does, because it's a trickle down effect all the way through every industry. So yeah, you're right on that, MJ. It has a detrimental effect. The taxes, all the taxes, there's like embedded tax. You got your GST embedded tax at the pump, and then on top of the price at the pump, a tax upon tax. You got TransLink tax. I mean, in Victoria, we don't got TransLink tax. why the gas prices are high here, right? Because corporations can get away with it. Oh, we got to truck it all there, right?
Well, see, and this is where try to remain calm. Try to remain calm.
It's okay. It's all good.
It's just this type of stuff it irritates me to no end that our government could be solving these problems. They could be saying, okay, we do need to go and deal with the climate issues, but we can do with laws, rules, and regulations around it, and saying, okay, we need to have these types of cars because in our country, our province, right, hybrid vehicles make more sense without a battery versus versus an electric vehicle, because up in Fort St. John or Fort Nelson, where it gets nice and cold to minus 30, a battery powered car makes no logical sense.
It won't work up there. Yeah.
Right. So we have a government that's making bad policy. Right. To me, okay, I would say fine. If you want to have hybrid and electric cars in 604, fine and dandy. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. But the rest of the province, allow them to at least have another option. But the way the government's going with a black and white policy makes no logical sense.
Yeah, unless they're going to start putting blankets or something over top of the vehicles and drive around. Oh, yeah, you can't see what you're doing. I'm just looking at, in the background, they got question period on there, Neil. They got Sonjia Firstnell standing up there right now.
Oh, there you go.
I know.
We're going to see her tomorrow.
And I just started pointing her finger, going like this. I'm thinking,
well,
Brent says you should do this.
No, raise no.
And to me, I mean, I'm not. I don't. When it comes to policies and ideas to solve problems, it drives me nuts that people want to pigeonhole you and say, "Oh, you're an NDP or you're socialist, you're this or that," and it's like, no, I'm a humanist. I want to do what's best for humanity, right? Yeah. And the best thing is to give people the opportunity and the chance to go and find out what's best for them, right? Mm-hmm. So you give them the money. You say, okay, you want to go and go back to school. Here's some money, $4,000. You've got some money to live on. You can pay for some courses and go at your own pace. Or you want to go and get your, class 1, you can use the money to go and pay for going to school. If you want to go and do whatever, instead of having to go and run people through rigmarole and nonsense
to prove why they need it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you got to go to Work BC. Like I'm dealing with it. It's like Work BC. Then they run you through a rigmarole for 6 to 8 weeks or more, a bunch of more nonsense of this, that, and everything else that wastes our time. And they're funded by federal and provincial tax dollars. And I got to be honest, I'm starting to not find value with these types of programs that don't actually, then, in the end, then they're going to go and say, oh, well, we can apply for funding. And then I got to apply for funding for something. And I'm sitting here going, that to me shows the levels of wastes of dollars that we currently have within our system. Or better yet, well, to have the program where they'll get you a minimum wage job where the government then goes and pays 50% of the wage so you can work at some two-bit job, but only for 3 months they'll pay the 50%. After that, you'll be out of a job. However, it's not enough hours for unemployment insurance, is it? Right?
Exactly. Do you qualify for EI? Can you go and prove the reason why that you need to?
Right. So qualify? It's like Brent. So you understand my anger and frustration.
Yeah.
It's like you've got all of these programs that we've built over the sundry of years, and all they do is just, I'm going to be honest, they're make work programs to employ people, right? Yeah. In these programs that if we took away the salaries for half of these people, I mean, they could have collected UBI, they could have found another job, or they could have went into the private sector, right? I mean, I'm one of these people that I'm pro private sector for most everything, right? And then giving people the opportunity to get themselves together. For example, if you got $4,000, you say, oh, I want to start a little business and build a business, right? And then you get it to a point where your business now needs a location. You have the money available that's not going to be deducted from you in any way, shape, or form to go and build your business. So now you've created somebody, they'll get to a point where they say, oh, I don't need this money anymore.
Right, because I mean, you give people all the money, all the resources that they need, and amazing what they can do. I mean, building this thing up that what we got going here. I mean, my gosh, the endless possibilities that it can have.
Well, exactly.
But no, but it's like, no, you need to prove why do you need this? Why do you need that? And my gosh, just show me the money.
Well, exactly.
What gets me is when they say, "Oh well, we're looking at your disability, your PWD or ODSP, and we're putting you under review." So now you're adding extra stress to a client who's already stressed out, and it puts them into a fight or flight mode, and then they get angry, like, well, why didn't you report your earnings, or why didn't you report your gift earnings? And I'm like, oh my god. Well,
are you going to prove? Are you still disabled, Daniel? Are you still disabled?
Yeah.
You need to go and get a doctor.
I don't know. Are you still a jerk?
Do you still have cerebral palsy that you got from birth?
Oh yeah. I remember. One of the administrations that was in, and I said they got put to the ringers on that when they did a huge no. I tell you, there was numerous amount of clients at the time, and the government at the time, they were looking at ways of cost savings across all ministries, and they targeted persons with disabilities. And I remember talking on the podcast before on that, but so I'm just going to make it really summary, is that there was a huge handful, and then they stopped because they got, no, like, you can't do this. And I tell you, it caused a huge amount of problems for disabled people, PTSD, stress, I mean, you name it. Unfortunately, in some cases, some people committed suicide, which is totally unacceptable due to the government's, actions at the time. Really? Like, so you're going to cause harm on people to prove why they're still disabled? Why do they still need support? Where that same amount used to be a pension. I think government learned at that time to leave that alone. I hope so, because I mean, what you just mentioned, Alan, in Ontario, they're still doing that. They're still saying I need to prove, like, as a review. Like, really? That's old age. It's just, you're right, MJ, on that too.
And
like,
I said this before, and I don't mean to throw, I don't mean to throw somebody like Rick Hansen under the bus, but no. Back in 1980, like you and I are old enough to remember, we had Terry Fox, and to me, and it's not just because I'm disabled that I'm going to say this, but to me, Terry Fox to this day represents the greatest Canadian that we've ever had. Like, honestly, like.
Yep.
You can say that I'm just saying it because I'm a disabled person, but besides that, honestly, like, Terry Fox was the best Canadian. He represented Canada better than anybody else ever did, and he just happened to have a disability, right? And we had a little bit of discussion a couple of days ago about this, but like. Terry Fox was you could tell he was one of those people. Like, I was about 12 years old when he passed away, so I was still young but old enough, right? And I remember him standing in front of cameras and speaking to politicians. Like, he would have these conferences where he was standing in front of people, all microphones and TVs, and he didn't really say, I'm being blunt here, but if something was bullshit, he basically said, this is bullshit. Like,
he said how it was, yeah.
And if he was still around, he'd be one of those people to say, this is bullshit. And what the problem is we don't have enough of those people nowadays with disabilities. We don't have people in power with disabilities saying this is bullshit. If we had a Terry Fox around, like, he would be saying this is bullshit, and everybody would listen. And it sucks that, like, like I'm only one guy, and nobody's gonna listen to me. I'm a nobody, right? I wish I was a Terry Fox.
You're a Neo. You're not.
You know,
nobody.
and you know, but you know what I mean. Like I'm just saying, like Canada needs somebody like a Terry Fox to say this is bullshit, and people would listen. That's you know.
I would hope Michael J. Fox might take up the mantle now that he's got what is it?
Parkinson's.
Thank you.
He's done a pretty good job. He's done a pretty good job.
But see, here's the thing: is one of the things that I realize is having one person standing up above and being the leader. When that light goes out, everyone starts looking around and trying to figure out who should be the next person. And to me, I'm one of these people. It's like of thinking that what needs to happen, it's not just for disabled people, but everyone else as well. Is we all need to stand up and say, "I matter."
Yeah.
And I've had, and as the movie says, I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. I think that's really where we need to be at.
Sheila Malcolmson's getting grilled apparently. Yeah, I don't know. Sonja's got headphones on, and I can see in there. And of course, she has the volume turned on TV, but she got in hers not enough. And then Sheila's up there going, and I guess somebody's
on
asking,
both sides or just one side. No, because I've sometimes in the legislature they actually get down to brass tacks, but a lot of the times it's just fluffery. I mean, the House of Commons question period is nothing but pandering and fluffery. I mean, there's nothing real about it.
But we talk about lived experience all the time, and we talk about getting invited to the table, right? Having a seat at the table. Those are words we hear all the time, like lived experience and having a seat at the table to make a difference, right? And I guess my point with Terry Fox was that we don't really have enough people like that anymore. That are going to get a seat at the table and be really vocal about the lived experience and be able to say in an eloquent way, this is bullshit. Like the next person that we have kind of like that is Rick Hansen, but he doesn't throw his hat into the political ring. But I know that if Terry Fox, like I know for a fact, like without a shadow of a doubt, if Terry Fox was still around, he would be stirring up shit like there's no I know, like I could, even at 12 years old, like I knew this is a guy that's plugged into the Canadian spirit, and he's gonna stir up shit, and he's gonna change the world.
He was a go-getter. He was a real go-getter.
See, See, and I'm going and looking at, the options of what we have here.
I'm tired.
I'm sorry about that. Sorry about that.
Oh wow.
Okay.
I don't know what is going on, but yeah.
Why did she do this?
Anyways,
oh man.
Anyway, sorry about that.
So I look at this. I'm looking at all the options of where we go with trying to get people's attention to these issues. And does it take going and starting a political party, another nonprofit organization that seems to go nowhere? Where do we go? Because it seems like when we look for solutions.
Yeah, right.
It feels like we're talking into the ether. Right, and nothing is being answered, and that's the real issue that we're facing when it comes to solving these problems with disability and with housing and all the rest of this stuff. Is the government says we're listening, but they've got their earplugs in.
Yeah,
right?
and that's MJ, and that's kind of exactly, I guess, people listening in the podcast, they probably hear Sonjia just screaming at the legislature is because the minister who's in charge of persons with disabilities, the honorable minister, I don't know what the question was because I'm doing my podcast, but she got very upset. And then again, that's kind of what we're talking about now, like the systems are designed the way that they're designed. If you give people the dignity, the respect, the autonomy to make decisions for themselves, and you give them the adequate income that they can make these decisions for themselves, so many things can change in a positive way for people's lives. They can maybe get a self-based business going. They can go to school. They can move to a new place they can call their home without having to sacrifice and prove the reasons why they need to do these things. Again, it used to be pensions, and now and magic unicorn, pink unicorn, poof, take it away. That goes to prove that the systems are, poof.
They're broken. They are broken.
Yeah. On purpose. They're broken on purpose.
Exactly. And I mean, a lot of people, when I look at history, and I'm a big history buff.
I love history.
And it's like, I sit here and I tell people, you have to pay attention to even the most psychopathic people that get elected. Right. And the scariest part is when you have people, because people have been lied to for so long, that the moment somebody goes and says, I'm going to go and do this, and then they actually do it, is when the entire system will actually change.
Yeah.
Because that's when people go, oh, he's actually going to solve this problem. Yes, he is. To me, I've been looking at how to go and get a party elected from nothing, right? And how to go and come up with ideas. How do you promise something to solve problems? How do you make people's lives easier?
Yeah.
And in the beginning, you're going to have to do universally available basic income.
No, you're not.
Because you're going to be getting rid of tons of government workers. Because, 1.5 to 2 million government workers that'll eventually go away over time is how things are really going to go and change. I mean, unfortunately, we are in a conundrum of a situation of where we have government workers, then we have contract workers that are paid by the government, who are then going and actually just going and doing nothing, like these Work BC programs that run you around in circles, that waste our tax dollars, that do nothing. So my thing is, give the money directly to the people and allow them to make the decisions best for them, and you'd be surprised at what they would do. Because
absolutely,
that's and people would be willing to learn how to make a resume themselves, or there'd be private industry out there that would help them out, or people that would do it, because people would turn anything into a business to make a few dollars. I'm saying, give people the ability to be innovative of their own accord and get out of their way.
Yeah, exactly. And that comes down to autonomy. Letting the person make those decisions that are best for them, not what government says they feel is best for the person. And as soon as that society realizes that letting people make decisions that it works better in their life, lived experience. It comes down to it's all about lived experience. The person, live the person's life, live the person with a disability, live their life or come and live in their income for, I say, 1 year. Some people would say 1 month, right? Give them 1 year. Give them no access to any lines of credit for the government officials, no credit, no nothing. I tell you, things would change so rapidly. And you know what it is? I mean, it's the I think it's probably their top brass that probably tell the government, no, this is how it's going to work. Well, if that's the case, we need to have them come onto the podcast. All these CEOs, all of them, sit down. Let's have a roundtable discussion on that.
I don't begrudge the pensions that MLAs or MPs or premiers or anybody gets. I don't begrudge that. But the fact is, I mean, if premiers and MLAs and MPs deserve pensions, why doesn't somebody like me deserve a pension or a livable wage? Let's just take the pension out of it. But that's why I've been fighting the whole clawback thing, because they invalidate pensions, which are supposed to be protected. But the bigger question is let's get a livable amount, and let's stop the insanity of legislated poverty. So
in there today.
if all these politicians are allowed to have things like pensions be valid things, like why can't you and I and everybody else have pensions too? I mean, you know, why the stupid pink unicorn logic of, well, now this pension is totally invalid now, and it's like, well, why? Well, it's because we said so. It's because of our own stupid rules, and you just have to like it. Sorry.
You know, and that comes to the kind of like the oral question period that's going on in BC legislature this afternoon. Sonjia was just saying to me off air. Well, I mean, I'm on air, but she was just saying to me, "I'm glad that I'm not there right now because they got the finance minister up right now, and she's giving explanations of something probably to do with the disability rates. I'm guessing that's what I'm kind of gathering, and again, it's defending why the system is the way it is. I guess, like." Again, we just give people a livable income, and I tell you, people happy. It will actually improve their mental health, their well-being, less strain on the healthcare system. My gosh, like the endless opportunities that can happen.
The bigger problem, Brent, is we've had our government sign up to these Agenda 21 and these Agenda 30 programs and these sustainable development programs. They've signed up to all of these programs, and they never asked us for our permission, right? They just did it. And now they're subjecting us to it, right? Which is costing even more money in the cost of running our governments and the cost of providing programs and these stupid ESG scores and all the rest of this goofy nonsense that's being created by people and private organizations that we shouldn't be subject to, right?
Yeah. It's almost like they have. It's almost like MJ. It's almost like they have like they signed like a contract with these organizations. Now they got to fulfill their
and now we're going to be subjected to the tyranny of this nonsense. Yeah, and this is where, you know, the bigger picture of, you know, like I said, giving people that ability to make their own decisions would be requiring, you know, our governments to get out from under this stuff that they signed. So they can get back to going and being involved in their own national interests.
Well, that's the part where I like what Ellen, like you made a good point a little bit earlier there, where like if you left the province for 5 days, and it kind of gets to the issue where I bring up the topic a lot. I talk about this a lot, and I always joke around. Neil, like I say, well, you know, can I have that month pass? Can I please go to the washroom? I remember getting this grill when I was in school. That's why I always bring this back, because it's so silly. And I remember, and like the teacher would get so mad. And then when I was in college, I had the same thing. Like it was always stuck saying, like, you know, and I always wanted to be respectful, right? I'd say, well, you know, can I, you know, put your hand up? Yes. May I please go to the restroom? Oh, okay. Well, why are you telling me? Like I'm giving a presentation here. Like go, like, you know, hey, I'm just being thoughtful. Well, no, if you need to go. Like you go and excuse, say, yeah, I'll be right back. Yeah, well, it's like, I'll be back in a month or 2 months. Oh, okay. You know, you don't lose your income. Like,
I mean, this is, you know, see, to me, you know, I'm one of these people that looks at these problems that have been created and the derivative problems that are coming all the way down to people with PWD and the people that are disabled and the homelessness crisis and all the rest of this stuff all stem from all of these other stupid international agreements that they signed. And this is where a lot of people truly don't understand how big of a picture this really is.
It's huge.
You know, where the picture is, you know, for what we're talking about and what we're advocating for is, you know, we're advocating for solutions, but the truth is we're starting to come to this picture of, are any of our political parties really interested in actually getting out from under this stuff, or are they just going to carry on and keep screwing us, right? And that's where I'm starting to question a lot of things about where are we going in this nation? Where is this nation?
We'll sign the convention.
You know,
we'll sign the convention for people with disabilities, but we won't actually do anything.
Well, because we'll sign the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, but we'll just leave it on the shelf, and it's getting dusty. Well, we'll dust it off every so often, and Hey, you got your back
Exactly.
to
We'll sign it, but we'll, what they sign it in principle. And what that usually means in their legalese is we like what it has to say. However, we don't want it legally binding.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what it means. So
that's like the pink unicorn. Well, it's nice sitting here, isn't it? Well, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, the pink unicorn makes me feel good, so it must be okay.
Yeah, that's why it's special to sit there. It's like the CRPD Act. Well, it's sitting there.
And that's the stupid argument that I got in. I've told this before too. The tribunal here, in BC, one of the tribunal chairs. I actually had a chance to talk to the guy on the phone, one of the guys on the phone, and he said, well, as long as a discrimination is equally applied, it's fine. He actually didn't use a discrimination. He actually didn't use the word discrimination. I should correct that. Like, he actually admitted that word.
So if you go,
I'm adding the word, but he basically said as long as they equally apply everything, it's fine. And I'm like, well,
okay. So by this logic, if you have an entire apartment building of 60 units full of disabled people, if you evict them all, for the same pretense, it's fine.
It's fine. It's fair.
It's not fair and it's not discriminatory.
No,
Even though it's against a protected class of people. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
But here's my famous line. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well,
so how about that, folks?
What are we having tonight? We're having spaghetti, aren't we? Yeah, okay. So get the big pot out there, Brent. Okay. Okay, so boil the water. Okay, boil the water. What about the noodles? Well, I got the noodles in. What anything else? You didn't tell me what else you want. You just said make spaghetti, so I'm boiling the water. Put the noodles in. Well, where's the sauce? Oh. What kind of sauce? Oh, we need to study that. I need to go and figure out here. Yeah, this is going to take me a while to research this now. Okay, so, oregano. Oh, do you need oregano?
Oh, framework for the sauce.
The framework. Oh, this is going to take me 2 years.
There's
in time for the election.
There's 30 years of people that have made spaghetti before.
Oh, but we
don't need.
I mean, this is where, when I look at all of this stuff, it's like, the level of idiocy that we're facing to solve all of these problems, it makes you wonder how has society just allowed this to just go on?
Yeah.
And then the spaghetti goes, now we got to clean it all up.
I mean, have you ever microwaved an egg?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Right? And then you poke it with a fork. And then it becomes a grenade and blows up. Right? I'm not kidding.
Or how about put a potato there?
Because my dad did this. And you'd be surprised at how far an egg explodes. It's about 10, 15, 20 feet. And it's quite interesting. But the point being is, when it comes to the government and society, that's what they're doing. They're microwaving the egg, and they're going to sit here and decide to poke it. So they're putting this pressure on society, and they figure, let's just poke the egg and see what happens. Because this continued pressure that they're putting on society with the carbon tax and this fee and this levy, this pressure is going to break.
MJ, talk about an egghead, eh? Poof.
It's like, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
egg face,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to throw a little there. Too. I mean,
well, the fun part was, I told him, don't poke the egg.
Oof.
I told my dad, don't poke the egg, and he poked the egg.
Oh.
And he said, why? What's going to happen? I said, well, it's going to blow up. So I figured I'd move about 15 feet away, and I was lucky I didn't get egg on me. But the point being is, this is what they're doing to society. They're microwaving us with all of these things that they're putting pressure on us. They've got us, with the carbon tax and this fee. Now they want us to all get an electric car for $75,000 to $80,000. I don't know how I'm going to afford that. Or I'm going to be using public transit that's going to be completely unreliable, right, and inconvenient, because it always is. So either way, they keep putting this pressure on society. It's going to boil over. And society is not going to reply correctly to
Right.
and this is why I always tell these, when I talk about politics and solutions, is if our government was fair-minded and they only did what they truly needed to do for the benefit of society, and that's it, right? All they did, they wouldn't have this pressure cooker happening. Right? We don't, and to unfuse that pressure cooker is going to take a lot of work for our government to solve. And I don't think they're properly equipped for it. Right? I think it's going to take the next generation of people to come into power and solve it, because the current generation is just too geriatric.
We've reached the point of the show for closing comments, Brent. So I didn't know if you wanted to put your closing comment in.
Sure, I'll throw it out there. I was just actually in the background. I'm glad that she hasn't muted. The question period is over, but the former finance minister is actually on there. They're doing some kind of second reading, whatever. And I just sent you a picture because we're actually not technically allowed to. They call it rebroadcast the question period on TV. But it's just not on. But it was a photo. I said, but and then that kind of goes back to kind of what we've been talking about, is like policies, like decision making, things from other like previous administration versus current government or whatever. It's always that kind of the blame game of government blaming government, why things don't happen. And I'm just going to summarize all this. Just give people a basic, like a livable, not even just a basic, but a livable income. These programs are so outdated. But we gotta wait 2 years though, because we got state-of-the-art computer system that's going to be coming out. Apparently, it's going to be modernized. It's going to handle the caseload, so it can handle bigger payments. What is that going to be? Is that going to be for like a livable income? Oh, gee. But just to conclude everything that we've discussed today, which is a very important discussion, and I'd love to dive into this on our next roundtable. I'm looking forward to it. I know Joseph will be pounding down on some of the numbers on it too, because he's going to talk about the new petition that's out there that's being sponsored by Honorable Mike Morrice from the Federal Green Party. It's so important. If you see it out there, definitely sign it. I encourage anyone who sees that floating out there on social media, sign the petition. It's worth a shot, right? All we can do is keep trying. And the MPs are they keep coming out with new petitions. It's unfortunate that DERB got told no by the federal minister who's in charge of the disability program. That maybe it'll come out. I don't know. I think it's still going to be, for me, I still have that gut instinct. It's going to be election ploy, little carrot trick.
But she voted yes. She voted yes to MAID.
Oh, I know, but she's going to use that other as a carrot trick of, well, vote for us because we got your best interest. Just give people an actual income and just be like a livable income and just be done with it already. And because people's lives don't get put on hold. People with disabilities, their disability does not get put on hold. Is it their fault that they have a disability? No. Is their fault that they now become a senior in life? Oh, or a veteran? Yeah. It's so sad that governments, and I'm not here picking on government. It's not me to pick on government day, but what it is, I'm bringing a recognition of saying, look at what is going on in people's lives, their lived experience. What are they going through? What are we all saying? We want the politicians, the ones who decision makers, to listen to us, allow us to be at the round table, not just the CEOs of the corporations. Allow us to sit here and give our testimonials of what we go through on a day-to-day basis, right? And get feedback. We can say, this is what we need. This is what I can say what my needs are, what I need. MJ can say what his needs are. Neil can say what his needs are. Alan can say what his needs are. Or Dan, Dan's not here now, but anyone who's on our roundtable, plus anywhere around the country, 1.5, 1.6 that number keeps growing. I know we used to say it's always 1.5. That number keeps growing. I'd say that number is even higher, but I'm not going to question that certain stat numbers, because really, like, it's just a stat number. It's an estimated at 1.5 to 1.6 million disabled Canadians who are on government legislated poverty assistance. Okay. We'll call it what it is. We'll call it legislated poverty assistance, because that's what it is. It's
government imposed. Yeah.
A government imposed, yes, poverty assistance. It used to be a pension, as we said before. I could keep going, but I'm not going to keep going on and on, because I'll let everybody have their time to giving end statements. One thing I do want to say to conclude on my part is I value all input from everybody on our roundtable, our comments that come in, so the questions on the YouTube here, on the live stream. Definitely, like, you want to be a guest on the show, come on, come on as a segment, and I want to value all the inputs that our roundtable or participants today. This is awesome, and we're really, I think we're making a huge impact across this country. I think we need to network more, and like we'll get more and more people involved in the show as time goes on. Like, you want to be a guest, come on. We need to get these numbers up here, subscribers. We get these numbers pumped up here. We're at, I think, where are we at here? 333, Neil?
333. So we're a third of the way to 1,000.
We need to get up here. So, I mean, if you enjoy watching these shows, subscribe. Like, anyone that you know that, hey, tune into this show. This is awesome. I mean, subscribe. Yeah. I mean,
and considering our numbers, it's only like we said, 333. The watch hours are actually pretty high.
Oh, I noticed. Yeah, they're really clocking.
For our channel being small like it is, there's a lot of people watching, and they're putting in the hours and watching. So, like, I'm really appreciative of that. That people are
politicians watching too.
Yeah, that people are tuning in and watching. And my closing comment is, again, that I wish I was a Terry Fox. I like being me. I'm not saying I don't like being me, but I wish I had the pull that a Terry Fox had, because we still, like, we desperately need, like, Canada desperately needs, like, as a 12-year-old kid, like I said, I so remember the energy and power, and you can put whatever words you want. It's not enough, but the emotional pull and the power that somebody like Terry Fox had, like, we need somebody like that again.
Well, I got to go and when I think it was what his name, Rick Hansen, he was the one in the wheelchair that did the one on the highway.
Yeah,
I mean, I was that was at a field trip that I got to go on, and got to go and run alongside him for a little bit, and as a kid, and walk and hang out, and it was, we don't have the people that are reluctant heroes anymore. That the ones that are the reluctant heroes that want to step up. And sometimes, I always sit there and I say to myself, do I have to? Do I have to be the one to stand up? And I know what you're saying, Neil, is you ask yourself the same question. Do I have to be the one to stand up? Mm-hmm. And I think the real answer is we all need to stand up together. All of us. Because with one voice, it can be extinguished. Mm-hmm. With 12 voices, they can go and mock us. But with 1 million voices, 10 million voices, or even 40 million voices, the government would have no choice but to listen. Mm-hmm. And the truth is if we could put aside our minor differences or our major differences for the betterment of humanity, maybe, just maybe, we could solve these problems. And the truth is the division is killing us.
Yeah.
It's destroying.
And that's what they want. And that's what the government wants. They think if we're
disabled versus
divided,
disabled. They want it.
Yeah, if we're divided into little pods, then we won't make much of a fuss.
One thing, I want to quickly interject on that part is, I'm sorry, government, but people around me, around my neighborhood that have disabilities, I asked them just recently, and I don't mean to be blunt. I said, well, do you want to die today? They're like, what? And I told them exactly about me, what's going on. They're like, no. I go, right. So, but the government apparently said, well, they just can't afford to raise our rates. So, the next choice is to go and apply for MAID. They're like, hell with that. So my point is that people are not ready to die. I mean, why should we? Why should we want to die?
I would rather suffer in pain.
Exactly.
Right?
I'm not going to give them the option of saying, hey.
Right? I'd rather be in excruciating pain and be alive than quit.
Yeah.
That's how I am at.
My belief is that we're all put on here on Earth for a reason. And the reason is for whatever that is. Is it advocacy? No. Is it because it's just who we are as a person? Right. So the government needs to now look at us as an individual of who we are and respect who we are, not with what is telling the government what to do, because it's not working. Like, I'm sorry, you have a legal obligation to take care of your citizens. And if you can't meet that obligation, well, then we got a serious freaking problem going on.
And you're right. And, I didn't want to have to bring it up, but, I've only read the first 50 paragraphs of Vattel's Law of Nations. And it basically says that we acquiesce our sovereignty to the nation, and that if the nation stops working for the people, then under the Law of Nations, it says that we have the right to go and redress our grievances and deal with it correctly, and reseat a new constitution and a new government. And the people have the right to stand up and say, we've had enough. And, like it or not, our government needs to stop thinking that they work for themselves or the special interests or the corporations. You work for the people.
That's right.
And that needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
And I'm one of these people that truly believes that together, if we step aside of our differences, we put, it's like you vote NDP, or you're green, or you're Muslim, or you're Christian, or you're Jewish. If we could set those aside, all of this bigotry that we've been trained and learned, human beings and humanity could be doing great things.
Yeah, exactly. If they could just learn to work together, and so much more can get accomplished rather than them saying, oh, well, I want to be in government because I'm going to make more money if I'm in cabinet, versus the other one, oh, no, you can't have this. And nothing.
I think we should just start drawing lots.
And there we go.
You go and put on your tax return that you want to go and put your name forth to be considered in the next federal or provincial election, and the computer will randomly draw you based on in the riding that you live in, and there you go. And there'll be no election, and it'll just be random computer selection. And
I would be an MLA if they would give me a private helicopter to make it easy for me to go from Surrey. I could have a little helipad, out front. And I could just go to the helicopter, and then they could, run me over to Victoria if I needed to attend, meetings in Victoria. I could go, Then I would consider it, but only if I got my own private helicopter.
No, they would tell you you'd have to take the ferry.
Yeah, well, see, that's where I draw the line. Then I need my helicopter first.
See, and this is where there are simple solutions to the simple problems, and we are all looking at this stuff from a different direction and a different way. And I try to look at this, like it or not, as being, as the most compassionate method possible, without causing the most harm.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, if we could do something cause the least amount of harm, then we would be able to have a complete solution, or the best possible solution that would work for most everybody.
Yeah. See, I find that there's a lot of politicians that are out there who really mean well. They want to see the system changed, and I think they get frustrated. And I'm not going to mention any names, but I know that some of them will get to a point where they want to make change within the system that they are the minister for, or if they're honorable, whoever it is, whatever party it is, and then they get to a point where they want to make that change, but the system won't let them change, and then they just drop off and I got a family issue, or whatever they got to do. They're not going to seek re-election because the system won't let them make that change, and it's very important.
This is why the system, Brent, needs to be changed.
Yeah.
Right. And this is, it's a larger discussion than what we're originally planning to talk about. But the truth is in order to be able to solve all these problems and being able to have a proper system where you can help the people get their lives together from going to school to getting their lives out there, and then they go and say, right, awesome, I'm making like 80, 90 grand a year. I don't need the universally available basic income or whatever it is, or GLBI. I can turn it off, right? I don't need it. Thank you very much, right? That way, if we move forward with giving people opportunity, then they won't need the government money, nor will they want it. In the end, it'll still be available to them if by chance they lost their job, right? Or if
or moved out of their forced out of their job. Because of AI or automation or whatever.
Well, exactly.
Also their own,
Well, exactly, and this is where with this type of idea that I suggest is the money would be there. It would always be there, and you wouldn't have the option. You wouldn't have to go through 50,000 questions and go and prove you're poor, broke, or whatever. You don't get any help. And if you go with take it or leave it, you go and give people the ability to also go and build up a nest egg if they decide, you know what, I'm going to build up a nest egg for the next 6 months to a year. I'll pay the taxes this year, but now I've got the money sitting in my savings account if I need it, so I don't have to use it next year, right? If they get a seasonal job. There are ways to solve a lot of problems. People are innovative, and people will work things out. You just got to give them the chance.
Totally.
Well, I know if there was a UBI and say the amount was $2,500 a month, I would probably bank $500 a month of it, because I think that with my rent being $1,260, that leaves me $720 over top. With the fact that I could, for just be me, I don't have to worry about anybody else. As long as I can stuff my fridge with stuff and buy in bulk, and then divide it up, then I've got enough meals for 4 weeks. If I can do a big shopping at the beginning of the month, then I could definitely live on $700. Even with my cell bill being $200, that still leaves me $500 for food and Netflix and whatever.
And that's another.
So thing. I could bank that extra. If it was $2,500, I'd be like, okay, I can bank $500 a month for the next 10 years or 5 years, and maybe I get lucky enough and I have enough for a tiny home over, or I could buy someone's used sailboat that maybe had been sitting in dry dock.
Sail away.
You could buy a medium format camera.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't, because a lot of the medium format cameras are they're great, but their video quality is not that. They're not very fast. They're not. They're focused.
Exactly.
They're meant to be a portrait studio camera. They're not. They're getting better. I won't say.
Anyway, we do have to punch out actually.
Yeah.
This is where, with all of these ideas that we come up with, we find all these solutions, and with all that being said, Brent, take us out.
If I had $1 trillion, I'd I would buy anything for that I need for myself and help others in society.
But not a real green dress, that's cruel.
But not a real green dress or any more pink
Well,
unicorn.
that wasn't what I was meaning, but anyways.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And,
Thanks, everyone.
we'll see you next time.